Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another Tatty Old Cars video. Today we're going to be talking about the AccuSpark REV limiter module, which is what we're going to be installing. And in today's video, I want to give you a demonstration of how the wiring is done and how the actual programming of the RPM limit itself is done. Now, there's going to be timestamps in the description of this video for the install, the actual programming, and the conclusion as well for the video. Because the first section of this video, I'm going to be talking to my channel's initial subscribers about the car itself here and some updates on it. So as you may be able to notice, looking at the car as well to the regulars, we've got new wheels. Now, I've probably done about 1,000 miles since I've done the MOT video, and I have to say, right now, the car is running great. The car is now on some MGTF 15-inch alloy wheels as well, which I think have transformed the look of the car. There is going to be some more work done on this soon, because I've got to have the rear arch welded up, because that's the only bit of the car where there's any little corrosion. And I'm going to be looking at doing underseal on the car as well, really. Other than that, it's been problem-free. It started every time. I've dialed in the carb tuning as well, and yeah, I've just been enjoying driving it, to be honest with you. So with all of that said, I will be doing a proper update video soon, also going through what the car has cost in regards to getting it back on the road and parts, and generally how much it has cost me to get to this point here where it's running and driving and a usable daily classic. But with all that aside, without further ado, let's go on to the install of the AccuSpark REV limiter. So firstly, let's talk about vehicle compatibility. So this will work with all cars that have a single coil triggered by a point sort electronic distributor. This is not suitable for later cars with coil packs and ECUs. So basically, if you've got a car with a carburetor and it's got electronic ignition or points or something along those lines, you should be absolutely fine. And also, the only information I can find online states that this will work with negative earth system vehicles only. So depending on the cylinder configuration of your vehicle, your rev limit can be set between 2,000 and 12,000 RPM on 4-cylinder cars, 3,000 and 8,000 RPM on 6-cylinder cars, and 4,000 and 6,000 RPM on 8-cylinder cars. Okay, so one of the first things we need to do is figure out exactly where we're going to mount the unit, because that will make a difference to how we're going to do the cable lengths. Now, I'm going to put some self-tappers into this plastic paneling here, the reason being that I don't want to put it directly into the body because this may not be a permanent thing, and I'd rather sacrifice a bit of plastic with some self-tappers rather than drilling holes into the bodywork unnecessarily. I'll probably move it to around here is where I'm going to put it, so that's where I can do my cable lengths like so. So with my paint pen, I'm going to mount it just around here. I think make it so these wires are about this kind of way here. Perhaps, yeah, I'm going to mount it just about here, so straight up, paint marker there. Ooh, need to clear off some of that, but yeah, that didn't go well. Let's clean that off and try again, shall we? Okay, ridiculous mess made by the paint pen cleaned up. Let's try that again, which was with a little dab. Yeah, that's perfect, so I know exactly where I'm going to be mounting this thing now. Okay, so now I basically know where this is going to go. What I can do is look at cutting down the wires. Now, the black wire needs to go to the negative side of the coil, and the red wire needs to go to the positive, and the white wire needs to go to earth. Now, I'm going to use down here on this body mount as earth, so I'll cut that to roughly, yep, that'll do there. The red one, I'm going to cut to, because that's going to go on the side here, roughly here. Now the black wire is interesting. What you may be able to see is that I fitted a quick disconnect to this black wire. Now the reason for that is because if there's ever a problem with this unit and I need to troubleshoot, if I disconnect this black cable which goes to the negative side of the coil, that'll stop it from essentially introducing the ignition cut or anything like that. So I can very easily disable the whole system with just one disconnect without having to fully unwire everything else and start taking off nuts and bolts and things like that. Not a 100% necessary step, but that's just one I have chosen to do with a proper automotive grade connector, just a little bit of peace of mind and ease of troubleshooting. So with that now pushed back into place, I can see that I'm going to want to cut this bit off somewhere around, I think, here-ish. So I now have my wires at all roughly the length I need them to be. Now I need to fit the terminals to them. So what we have are two different types of ring terminals that I'm going to use. I am going to use a larger one, which is going to go on the body of the coil mount, and that will act as the earth for the car. And then you've got the 2 wires which will go onto the actual nut posts on the coil itself. That way we won't have to worry about them being easily disconnected or accidentally disconnected or anything like that. They'll be literally wired into this part of the coil here. So as you can see, I've now got the box mounted on the plastic cowling on the firewall with the self-tappers, and I tell you what, that's in there solid and not going anywhere. What I have done is I've put the ring terminals on, I've put a heat shrink on them as well when they're up here, and a little bit of tape too on this part for the actual ground. And what we need to do now is actually just start undoing these little nuts and putting the wires onto it. And then I need to get, I think it's either a 10 or a 13 mil, undo this and actually attach the ground as well. So let's get everything on the tripod and let's get doing that. Okay, so now we can get to actually doing the wiring install. I'm going to take off the positive wires here that go to the coil. And this is actually how I installed it last time, which was just using some pliers to actually get the nut undone. So the positive wire now goes onto the positive part of the coil, put the little washer over top and start doing back up. Oh, that's now nice and tight on there and not going anywhere. So let's do the negative side of the coil now. I'll take the king lead off. In fact, I'm gonna go get a little set of adjustables for that. Okay, now I'm going to get this on here to undo, like so. This is quite a small nut and I don't actually have any spanners in the same size as this, annoyingly. That done up like so. Start tightening up. So that's pretty tight on there. So now I can reinstall the wiring harness here. That is all the wires connected there. King lead back on. So that's the actual coil wiring. Now I just have to do the ground wiring. This is going to be pretty simple. 13 mil, undo like so. I've got a multimeter here. I'm going to make sure that there is continuity between this bracket on here and the battery, which there is. Perfect continuity, so that's absolutely fine. So that's getting a good ground. So this ground's checked. We can now reinstall said bolt. Okay, and that is all wired in. And so to confirm now, this is the actual wiring completely done. I've got to tidy it up perhaps a little bit here, maybe with some cable ties or something, but we have the ground here, and that's attached to one of the body mounts for the coil. We have the negative side of the coil wiring here, and the positive side of the coil wire here. So that's it, that's all in place. Now what we've got to do is start the car and let it warm up. So before we start the car up, let's talk about the method we're actually going to use to kind of tune this and get this set up right. There's a couple of ways you can do it. On the box it tells you to raise the RPM to about 3,000 odd and actually twist the adjuster down until it starts to kind of spit and misfire and limit, and then adjust it from there like a certain amount of turns. You can do that. What I'm going to actually do is attach my RPM gauge. You're going to want this anyway. If your car doesn't have one on the dash, you'll need one. This is a cheap one I bought off eBay that I've put some crocodile clips onto so I can attach it to the negative side of the coil and get the signal and just attach this to the battery. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the RPM limit screw, and I'm pretty much just going to use the throttle on the carb and just check it out. And when it gets to the RPM limit that I want, it will cut in. Now the RPM limit I'm setting on this particular engine is 6,000 RPM for my application. And to confirm, this is a 1275 A Series A Plus engine in an Austin Maestro. But to start off with, you'll find that it's probably kind of pre-tuned on a 4-cylinder about 3,000, 3.5. So we're going to plug the RPM gauge in, I'm going to let the engine warm up, and then I'm going to get back to you. Okay, so at this point your engine's going to be nicely warmed up. Also ignore the fact that my quick connector has gone. It turns out it actually wasn't working that well and it was a bit intermittent. So I've removed it for now, and I'll come up with another solution and return that connector, because either I installed it wrong or it's just crap. The car is now fully up to temperature, and if we look at the gauge, when I rev up the car, you can see that our ignition cut is set about 3,500 RPM. So what I now need to do is get my little screwdriver underneath the box and start turning clockwise. I think it's at about 1.5 turns for every 500 RPM. Counting the turns, let's see where it goes. That's 4,000 RPM. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see where that goes. So that was pretty much bang on where I wanted to be. Around that 6,000 RPM mark, and that's it. That should now be the tuning done. Okay, and that was the install and the setup of the rev limiter. Since the install has been completed, I've now added some bullet connectors in line with the black wire which goes to the negative side of the coil. So that's my easy disconnect now, and that's all sorted, and I'm happy with that. Other than that, it's worked quite well and it's been reliable. Now what I need to do is drive the car a little bit more and feel out exactly if 6,000 RPM is the rev limit I want to set it to. But as we know, it's really easy to change. 6,000 RPM seems pretty good for the A series engine, and generally I'm quite happy with it. But of course, I just need to really see where the power band is and where it feels like it's going to fall off. I haven't really driven it loads since I've installed the limiter, maybe about 20 miles, something like that. And I don't really rag it, to be honest. I don't really drive the heck out of it. So it's really there more for protection. So as far as I'm concerned, the install has been a success, and that's just another little addition to give this car a bit of more modern safety, I suppose, so I can quite happily lend it out to anybody who wants to drive it and not worry about them over revving it or causing any damage that way. If you do have any questions about the install, please put them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer what I can. And I hope this has been informative, and if not anything, just fun to watch. So until the next time, my name is Will, this is Tatty Old Cars, this is Fred the Maestro, and we'll see you in another video soon.